Perfect. Hello, my name is Olivia Flathammer, and I'm happy to kick off InVision, a monthly podcast hosted by the Vision Center Leadership Development for Aging Services. Vision Center partners with universities, senior care, and aging service providers to support associations and business partners to advance the field of senior living leadership to students nationwide. I'm passionate about senior living leadership and excited to work with Vision Center as an intern to further my knowledge in the field. I am currently pursuing a bachelor's in healthcare administration and a minor in gerontology from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. This podcast will provide regular inspiration and guidance to students interested in pursuing a career in senior living leadership, especially those working to become licensed nursing home administrators or healthcare executives. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Grace Krenn. Grace is a current student at UW-Eau Claire, majoring in healthcare administration and a minor in gerontology as well. So, Grace, now that we've introduced you, what interested you in working in the senior living industry?
Yeah, so when I was about 8 years old, my mom started working at an assisted living and memory care as a sales and marketing director, and I spent a lot of time there, whether that was just hanging out with the residents or participating in activities or just sitting in the community, and it really started to feel like home. And I knew I wanted to do something within that industry, and I knew it was a space I would enjoy working in.
Awesome. And I know you are the sophomore Chase intern, so do you want to explain a little bit about that and then any other experience you have in the senior living field?
Yeah, so I started the internship this school year in September, and it's been really fun. I've got to work a lot with the junior intern. I've made further connections with the professors. Mainly, we work on social media, annual reports, reviewing everything that happened throughout the year. We do student spotlights, and we host leadership projects, and we're working now on the Chase banquet in spring. So it's been a really cool opportunity, a good leadership opportunity, and it's really exciting. And then at home, I work as a culinary host at an assisted living and memory care, have for about 2 years now.
Do you think any of your senior living experience translates to your academic career, making it easier, harder to understand concepts?
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier. Along with working, I've had volunteering, so I've been able to see both the ins and the outs. Working has definitely showed me what it's actually going to be like. Prior to working at Stony River, it was always nursing. And that was just when I wanted to show up and hang out with the residents. And then I slowly realized that maybe would not be the right path for me. My mom did end up taking on the role of executive director, and I never thought of that as a position that I would do. But then when I found the program at Eau Claire, I thought it would be perfect fit, and it just made sense.
Awesome. So, what has been the most impactful thing that you've done, you've seen, you've heard in regard to senior living?
Yeah, so I would say it's overall just impactful when I hear from residents' families or residents themselves that something I did made their day, or just that I've been doing a good job. Everything I do is for my residents. And so when that work is acknowledged, it's very nice. And it's nice to see that what I'm doing is helping them. But I would say the most impactful this summer, I worked with our current sales and marketing director to put on a fair for our residents. It's always something that I've enjoyed, and it's a pastime, but it's not accessible and it's certainly not affordable for our residents. So I brought it to them, and we had a whole night at the fair. We had games and food, raffles, face painting. It was all free to them, and it was open to the community. And in the end, we were able to raise almost $1,000 for the Alzheimer's Association. So that's something I hope to do every year, maybe tweak it a little bit and add on, but it was very fun.
That's awesome. What would you want someone who's has no idea about senior living to know?
I think there's definitely a huge negative stigma around senior living. It is mainly because it's such a huge change, and with any change, there's going to be challenges and they will experience struggles, but I want them to know that there are also amazing moments, when residents they get better, they adapt, or they have a fun time in an activity. They get to form relationships with the staff. And it doesn't always have to be a bad experience. It's just it's a change and you work through it. Um, but I think I would want them to know to just before you make those assumptions, like either volunteer or try working there. And there are going to be bad facilities and you're going to have good facilities, but overall, I think it really is a positive experience for most.
Yeah. So, what drives you and like what are the most important values in senior living, in your opinion?
So my residents drive me the most. I mean, like I said, everything I do is for them. So I keep coming to work for them. I did the fair. I didn't get anything out of the fair other than seeing them being able to enjoy something they did when they were younger, um, and have a good time. But I think it's really important. As a host, um, serving food, sometimes it can be very easy to become so facility-like and just give them the food and be done, but we tried moving to more restaurant style. And I really push autonomy and independence, like the right to choose what they want to eat and when they want to eat, when they want to wake up. Um, I also think having compassion and empathy, seeking to understand why a resident is acting the way they are, understanding that they're going through so many changes or something happens with their family or they were diagnosed with something. And overall, just really respecting them and understanding that they have dignity. So
Awesome. Where do you see yourself post-graduation? Are you planning on, executive level or do you want to work your way up?
So I really I enjoy where I'm at now at an assisted living and memory care. I've never worked in or experienced a skilled nursing facility really. I think I'd be open to it, but I think I want to stay at the executive level. I think a master's and or CEO or hospital administration would be cool, but it's like it's when in long-term care it's more patient hands-on. I get to see my residents and form those connections. So I think I'm more looking at the executive level of maybe a smaller community.
hmm Um, do you think the aging population is going to affect the senior living field?
Absolutely. I mean, it already sort of is. It's kind of talked about the push to stay at home longer. So now even at the facility I work at now, we're seeing residents come in with higher acuity levels because they tried to stay at home a little longer than they should have. Something happened, like they fell, they were dehydrated, they um, had an accident, and as a result, they're worse off than they would have been if they would have moved in a little sooner. But I understand wanting to stay at home and keep your independence. But I think it's going to have a large um, effect on staffing. I mean, we already do. And as we said before, with the baby boomers, we're going to have so many more people within long-term care. Going to lead to we need more staff, longer hours, and overall just a bigger capacity for them. We need more buildings. I also think finances is a huge thing. I don't think we can sustain the cost of senior living that we are now, moving into the future years, and neither can the senior population sustain it.
Yeah. So you mentioned a lot about like understaffing issues, which we're already experiencing in the senior living field. How would you inspire others to enter the senior living field or even engage with it?
Yeah, I do understand that the not wanting to work in healthcare, it's a 24/7 thing. I mean, you have to work holidays and weekends and you can't just, I mean, it's like you can't just close down. They have to eat, they have to be cared for. Um, but I definitely do think the mindset that yes, it's your job, but it's also their home and understanding how rewarding it is to be able to take this huge change. And it's not fun to move away from home and experiencing that aging effects, but you can have a huge difference on it. And I think you really need to be in it in your heart and in your head. Um, but I would say you never know. Like go in for it. It's rewarding. There's a huge market for it. You will find jobs, you will find positions, and it will pay off in the long run. But also, it's not everything that they say. I mean, you're not worked to the bone. You have time off. They listen to you. At least in my facility, they're very big on, listening to your concerns and wanting to make sure you're feeling heard.
Awesome. I know you touched on a little bit of the misconceptions of long-term care. Why do you think that beyond just like, the strenuous activities involved? Do you think there are any other reasons why there are so many misconceptions?
Yeah, I think that um, it's definitely an outdated misconception, or not a misconception, but it's an outdated idea. I mean, in the past, there were less regulations, less focus on person-centered care. So I think we haven't really transitioned into the mindset of what senior living is becoming and what it can become. But I also think it's just a simple like lack of understanding for those who have the misconception about healthcare, haven't really worked in it. Maybe they have their family member or they know someone who did, or they really haven't had any connection with it. So it's hard to see on the inside. I mean, when your loved one is in a senior living facility, you want the best for them, and it sometimes can be hard to seek to understand. But I think it's just simply lack of knowledge and experience, which I know can be hard to get, but it definitely is helpful in seeing on the inside what long-term care really is.
Definitely. Do you think, obviously, the misconceptions negatively affect people choosing it as a career, or do you think it just stops people entirely from entering the field?
I do think that it has affected people choosing it as a career. I mean, with the hours, they don't want to get burnt out and they don't want to work so much. Um, and they also don't want to work in a bad environment. But I think if they really knew, I think it could be quite the opposite. Depending on what you choose, your hours may be just as simple as a 9 to 5. You may have a little after um, work just to be on call or something, but the environment is what you make it in a sense, and it depends on the facility, it depends on the community. Um, but I do think that it's stopping people from choosing it as a career. It's almost kind of scary, and I think also, I mean, I don't have the answers. Like, I don't know what we're going to do with the senior population. I think that's also something that is deterring people away from choosing it.
Hmm. Um, so how do you think senior living could be better marketed to people considering healthcare or interested in healthcare in regard to a career opportunity?
Yeah, I would say to really highlight the impact, how rewarding it is, um, to be able to care for someone and better their life, but also showcasing the career growth. Personally, like I just want to stay on a level of executive director, but there's so much more you can do. I mean, my mom went from a sales and marketing, and then with just a few classes, is now running 2 buildings. So it definitely not every position requires lots of schooling, which I know is probably a deter for most people. And I would also say that highlight again, there's a huge job market for it, many positions you can go into, and honestly, just try and getting rid of the negative stigmas, such as burnout or work life, and um, just that it's not a good place to be in.
Yeah. So we have a mix of viewers between students thinking about senior living as well as senior living employees as of now. What do you think you would say to the students to inspire them, like any tips and goals? And then anything you would want to say to directors of like senior living or anyone staffing senior living to try and bring people in?
Okay. So for the people interested, I would say, I mean, get in there, volunteer. You won't know until you're in there. And it really does take a special person, and it's not for everybody, and that's okay. But I would definitely give it some thought, try new things. I mean, I wasn't for nursing, but I knew I still wanted to be in long-term care, and it's a perfect mix between business and caring. And I'm sure there's so many other positions that you could do to, such as sales and marketing or activities or even receptionists. I mean, anything you can do to get involved is great. For those trying to deal with staffing to get more people, unfortunately, a lot of the times it's out of their control. People want higher wages, and sometimes these executive directors, they can't enforce that on their own. Um, but I would just really, as a worker myself, it's nice to be heard. It's nice to be when I hear that I'm appreciated. Um, and I guess a necessity to the building. So I would just say being open, having open communication. It is really hard because it's something that, I mean, you can't change people's minds as easy as you would like, but definitely just keeping a positive mindset with your staff, forming a good culture is important. Nobody wants to work somewhere where no one's getting along, everyone's arguing. So I think that's important.
This is great. Do you have any last minute thoughts, comments, plugs to the senior living experience?
I would say it's great. I've never felt more certain in wanting to do what I'm going to school for. Um, and I wish we were seeing more people also getting involved. But I would say if you have even an inkling, try it out because you never know, or even if you never thought you would like it, I would say go for it.
Awesome. Well, this was a rapid fire podcast, and thank you
Yes.
so much, Grace, for coming in today. And I hoped everyone enjoyed this short little InVision podcast.
Yes. Thank you.